Well, now that the government of national unity has been confirmed and installed, the hard work of delivering to the electorate actually begins now. COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator Mr. Matthew Parks joins us now to reflect on the road ahead. Matthew, as always, thank you so much for your time. Good afternoon. So, COSATU's sentiments now that the new cabinet has been sworn in. Are you confident in the appointed members that are aligned with your principles of course, fighting and securing social as well as economic justice for workers?
Look, it's still early days. We do hope they succeed. We do wish them well. But ultimately, it's up to the members of cabinet, the deputy ministers, to prove themselves to the society. The number of challenges facing workers, from a high unemployment rate of 42% to entrenched levels of poverty and inequality, the real challenge we face across society of endemic crime and corruption, struggling public and municipal services, the pain we've experienced with load shedding, with cable theft, with declining state-owned enterprises. Really, there's a huge amount of critical things government needs to deal with. We do hope the ministers, the GNU, will prove to society they're up to the job. But ultimately, this is going to be up to them. But I think to say the obvious, there is no honeymoon. We expect them to move with speed because society really has gone through difficulties and they expect government to deliver that better life for all quickly.
Matthew, what has been your reaction as COSATU pertaining to the largely criticised bloated cabinet members of 77?
I think for us, that's a bit of a disappointing part. We understand the logic of political accommodation, where you would have increased the number of ministers from 28 to 30 or 32. We understand the logic because now the ANC's had to accommodate 10 other parties, and that is always going to be a difficult juggling act. But I think for us, having 42 deputy ministers, which is an increase of about 10 from the previous administration, is really excessive. There's no need to have this army of deputy ministers. It is going to cost the state quite a bit. Deputy ministers themselves don't have clearly defined functional competencies. They're allocated tasks by the executive on an ad hoc basis. And really, it sends the wrong message to society. We think also it smacks of hypocrisy when political parties across the party line have indicated in Parliament for many, many years that they feel that the public service wage bill is too high. They've wanted to cut, to impose freezes, to reduce, etc. And now we find the same little parties in a stampede to become deputy ministers. So I think for us, that is a disappointing point. We do hope when vacancies do arise, that the president will resist the urge to go and find replacements. And in fact, we can simply do with less deputy ministers, especially when those monies could have been used to pay for nurses, for teachers, for police officers who do actual work on the ground to society.
Matthew, I'm going to ask you two questions in one. Firstly, what will be your biggest push for priority programs be as the portfolios start their 100 days in office after the Lekgotla that is set to convene soon, and also the DA having made it quite clear that they would not increase the minimum wage, which they view as the highest of the 30 countries that they actually reviewed in their policy paper. Obviously, parties within the GNU have agreed that they will share, so to speak, their party identities in favor of the new framework. But do you have faith that this will actually be the case?
Yeah. So look, in terms of your first question, the priority is to fix the economy, to fix the state, to grow the economy, to reduce unemployment. The critical high-impact ways to do so is to continue to support Eskom in ending load shedding. And we have seen fantastic work by the leadership of Eskom, by Minister Sputla Ramokgopa. We've made huge progress in reducing load shedding, and we must maintain that trajectory. We need to see similar efforts with regards to Transnet and Metro Rail, because Transnet is key to the mining, manufacturing, agricultural sectors, which have hundreds of thousands of jobs, which generate billions of rands for the revenue. And so we need to make sure that Metro Rail is fully operational, because that's key to getting workers and commuters to the destinations on time. We need to see similar efforts to rebuild local government, and we are quite concerned about changing the ministers of local government when they had begun to make some progress in reducing the chaos we see in local government. We also need to see efforts to rebuild law enforcement, to tackle crime and corruption, and of course to continue the excellent work being done by the South African Revenue Service as well, to ensure that the tax revenue society, the state needs to fund public services, is generated. I think with regards to the Democratic Alliance's stance on the national minimum wage, look, that's the individual party stance. It has no bearing in law. The national minimum wage is an act of Parliament. It is a law of the Republic. And the Minister of Employment and Labour and the National Minimum Wage Commission are compelled by the law, not by personal feelings or pamphlets, but by the law itself, to protect the value of the minimum wage, to adjust it for inflation every year, to ensure it retains its capacity to reduce poverty and inequality. So this is why the minimum wage has always been adjusted by above inflation since it came into effect in 2019. And this is why it's going to continue to do so. The Democratic Alliance remains a 21% party, not a 51% party. So no law can be passed without the say-so of the African National Congress. And I think it's critical that the DA and other political parties who have transversed from being on the opposition benches to being part of a government also need to adjust their policies to be in line with the laws of the Republic, to be in line with the ANC's policies, the ANC manifesto, because we're not going to have a festival of party manifestos in the GNU. It's going to be anchored by the ANC electoral mandate, and of course it's going to be based upon the Constitution and the laws, including the National Minimum Wage Act.
And in closing, Matthew, I know you mentioned some of the programs that you are championing is swiftly before, of course, those ministers take up their various portfolios. So which other plans as well as programs is COSATU then also pushing for in consideration in this new administration?
I think additional ones is about how do you break the back of unemployment, especially for youth unemployment. You can't say in a society with a 42% unemployment rate and a 59% youth unemployment rate that is simply economic and political suicide. So we think it's critical that in the budget we need to drastically increase the size of the presidential employment program to accommodate at least 2 million young people simultaneously, to really help them into the labour market, to earn a salary, to acquire the skills and experience and confidence to find permanent work. We need similarly also to make sure that we also ramp up local procurement, that we give support to local industries. The stated 1 trillion rand procurement budget each year is the largest source of procurement for society, for the economy. So we really need to make sure we ramp up the programs in the Department of Trade Industry to support local industries, be it clothing, be it furniture, be it motor manufacturing, be it food, to see how can we really give support. This also means that in the medium-term budget statement to be tabled at Parliament in a few months' time, we should really be increasing substantially the industrial financing programs, because we can't expect unemployment to fall drastically if we continue to give a very small amount of money, about 10 billion rand a year, to industrial financing, to export incentive programs, if we're going to continue on this path. We need to make sure that we really ramp up our trade opportunities from the African continent to Europe, to North America, to Asia, to the BRICS countries as well. Because ultimately the solution to all of our challenges as a country is to grow the economy, is to reduce unemployment, is to ensure workers have a living wage, have decent employment. That's the ultimate solution to all of our challenges fundamentally.
Matthew, thank you so much, as always, there for your input. Mr. Matthew Parks, the COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator there with the Federation's plans to push for more workers' rights as well as emancipation under the new administration of the Government of National Unity.